is about this crime show or something, right? So my friend, right, a roommate of mine, was telling me about this crime drama he was watching, right? About how like there was this murderer in Long Island or something that murdered like 10 plus people, and it took decades to find him, and it was a whole debacle because like the cops were inadequate, basically, right? Amongst other stuff, like it was like a big deal. And it got me like really upset because it got me thinking about something, right? Something I'm always thinking about, which is how abso-fucking-lutely pathetic of a society we are. Do you know the amount of hundreds of thousands of people that like have been murdered? And we don't know who's done it, dog. We don't even know what's happening. People be shocked. They're like, wow, someone was murdering people for decades here in the most awful fucking ways. And like, it's not even that they couldn't find them. They weren't even searching for them. It happens. It is happening, and it happens all the fucking time. And it's not that that happens, right? Well, it is that. It is exactly that happens. But there's something deeper, right? I think there's a reason why this happens, or why this has allowed to have happened in the way it does in our society, right? And you can say it's about like funding or not funding, or the structure of the cops, or if the cops should exist the way they are, or whatever. Like there's a million different angles, and they're all right and they're all wrong and whatever. I have my opinions, right? But there's something deeper, right? Something that permeates all of us, right? And it's this thing I call, and I've mentioned this before, right? System density blindness, right? This is the great social ailment of our people at this time, right? You're like, what the fuck is you talking about, right? I'm gonna ask you this, dog, right? Right now, right? Like, what are the cops doing right now? Like, what are the plans that the cops do? What are the like sub groups that the cops do? Like, do you know any of that? Even by name, by glance. Do you know where they are, or like what they do? Like what cases they're like, dog, we have it's so hard to understand, explain this. Like, we have no structural, it's not even oversight. I'm not even talking about oversight, dog. You don't even know what to oversight. Dude, you don't know who's in charge. You don't know nothing, dog. We mostly just pretend, dog. And you might say like, we know, right? No, son, for 95% of us, right? You hear a mention of it, and then it goes away. And you don't know nothing about it, dog. We don't have the most basic structural material understanding of any structural system in our like, do you know where the people that like filter your water, where they are, like who runs it? What law says, like, you don't know that. You just open your tap water and you drink that. Right now they could be passing a bill that says we're going to allow the amount of human doo-doo that's allowed in your water from like 0.01% to 1%. You wouldn't fucking know that's happening, dog. You wouldn't know that's happening. They could have passed that shit yesterday. You could be drinking doo-doo water. You wouldn't even know until someone fucking tells you, right? You don't have no structural fucking understanding of what's going on around you, right? It's the same thing with the cops, dog. You could have all the opinions you want, right? Dude, even the cops themselves don't have a complete structure. It's impossible, dog. I'm not saying like you have to be, that's the thing, right? I'm not saying that you have to be a genius in all of these things or know all of these things, right? What I'm saying is that we don't even have the tools if you even wanted to do any of that. Like, it's like we haven't even built the wheel. Like, we built all the aspects around it. It's like this. It's like we don't have a map. It's like our society didn't think about the idea of, like, you know how we have maps to walk around in your physical environment? We don't have a map for, like, the social structures of our environment. Actually, we do. They're all just in, like, a million billion different hypofractal whatevers, you know? And the only people that are putting it together are the fascists, like Palantir. They're gonna use that to enslave you, but that's a side argument, kind of, that we might bring back later, right, in this rant, right? You have no structural so this is why the cops can kind of like, half the time they're the people murdering people, right? And that's why they're like, please do not look into stuff because it's a fucking disaster, right? Please don't look into it. We don't have the time to solve it, right? They don't even have, like, do you know even a cursory relationship between, like, I don't even know how to explain this shit. I know the cops have oh my God, son. There's like 100,000 departments no one knows about, right? No one knows how they function, right? No one knows the structures of them, right? The cops that are in there they themselves don't probably have a structural understanding of all the aspects, right? I'm not saying I'm not saying like we have to know every little detail, right? Like, you don't know every single person in every single house in a map, right? But you know the house exists there, you know? Like, you have that like cognitive map, right? Nothing, dog. We know nothing, son. How are crimes gonna get solved? How are you gonna make any true, honest to God, legal, political, or any fucking decision without having to rely on someone, which already are which is already the problem here, right? Like consultation, interest, or whatever, right? Without having to rely on the news, right? Without having to rely with somebody, right? How are you gonna make any choice, dog? Why do you think our discourse just around like our feelings, our vibes about shit? Why? Why do you think that is, dog? Right? Until we can cure our system density blindness. Our systems are so dense. Human civilization, it's so dense. There's so many interlocking structures, right? Until we cure that blindness, right? Pedophiles are gonna run our country. They're gonna pedophile your kids, I'm sorry. All of your politicians are gonna commit genocide, slavery. They're gonna use your money to do all sorts of evil shit, and they're gonna tell you it's democracy, dog. And you're not gonna pull up are you gonna pull up the law of that country, dog? Really? Are you gonna pull up you're not gonna give a fuck. It's too late. You're already part of a narrative. You're already invested, dog. You're already invested, okay? So you already picked the team, so whatever, dog. They're just gonna sell it to your face, dog. Crimes are gonna get solved, right? But like, but you won't know. You're gonna hear some podcast 10 years from now, or like a quip it on Facebook as you're scrolling, right? There's no society interface. You understand what I'm saying? There's no society interface to empower you as a free citizen to know what the fuck is going on anywhere, dog, without someone's opinion or whatever, dog, or some shit. And you don't give a fuck. Even if you had that tool, honestly, you don't give a fuck. Let's be honest, dog. Half of you fucking pedophile Nazi motherfuckers, whatever, son. Yeah, I said it. Right? So again, that got me pissed, right? Because it's like, we're a dumbass group of people. Like, we just pretend, dog. We just pretend. Every opinion that we have, like, sure, half of it, like, I'm not saying that we're all dumb, right? Like, you know, our angles and perspective of things are all valid. Not all, right? And whatnot. And, like, you know, and no one can be an expert in anything, dog. But, like, let's be frank, son. Right? Oh my gosh. That pissed me off, right? And at the same time that I was watching that, right? Well, at the same time he was telling me that after I had paused the video I was watching, which was John Elmer's, right, Gangabase, right? And again, right, there's this relationship, right, between this theme I just brought up about system density blindness, right? The use of these tools, right? Right, and this other opinion I want to interject, which is like, because we don't have a material, structural, or systemic understanding of things, right? We create narratives of understanding, right? And most of them are just sort of like fantasy-based conjurations, right? Like conjurations, whatever. We're gonna make that conjurations, right? Like races of people and character traits, like video game stuff or whatever. Like, I don't know, like abstractions, right? That's kind of like language abstracts concepts and things into a way your mind's eye can sort of grasp or whatever, right? So it's like, okay, so like, you know, there's a relationship there. So, and then let me unpack it. I know I'm just saying a bunch of fucking gibberish shit, right? But let me all put it together, right? Like, within the because our society, like individuals as a whole, right, have very limited structural understandings of the aspects around them, right? And because of the nature of how it's structured, right, we call these people like Renaissance people or savants or because it's like they literally, to know anything, you have to know like you have to become an expert in everything. To know a single thing. You gotta know it to really understand it and not bullshit, you gotta understand, like, especially social stuff, you gotta understand from all these directions, right? It's just a pain in the fucking ass, right? There's no, like, we have tools for it, we have like, right, like Wikipedia, right? Wikipedia, right, tries to analyze the dimensions of a concept in different temporally or whatever, right? Right, but they also fall into the narrative sort of estimation of things, right? Like I don't know, like there's no, no, I'm not gonna come here. Like, it's like two-dimensional, right? It's a static kind of two-dimensional, a little bit of skewed plane, right? Like, for example, like Wikipedia, right, is not gonna have right? The sum of the current, past, like changing scientific consensus of like an argument, right? It's not gonna have, like, it's not gonna show you where this information is, like in some sort of like UI way, right? And how that is sort of spatially organized, and like what is being extracted from that information to create, like, it's not gonna show you the whole picture. What it's gonna do, it's gonna like cite one source that, like, at best, their job was to summarize some whole section, right? So then so someone just took like one part of the person that did that one summary at one point that everyone more or less agrees on, right? Because like I don't know, not even databases, like they arrange it in a way that is like kind of a pain in the ass. Like you understand, right? It's not a full picture, right? And it's not temporal based. It's not strong. Oh my God, son. It's like we have to, it's like we know, you ever see like in the future where they have like holograms and they show the whole city and then there's like layers of it's like that. Like we know what we're talking about. We know what we need to do, right? But like, and we have a lot of the individual pieces, right? But it's not like we don't have it together, right? We don't have that tool to have that sort of understanding. It's still sort of two-dimensional. It's still fragmented and discombobulated and like not, and still, it's still narrative based, right? So because everyone in our society, right, we're at this level, we have this system density blindness, right? Like, for good or for worse, right, a lot of these aspects within these institutions sort of get out of hand, or, right, they become more reflections of like the biases of the people, right? Or worse, right, they take advantage of the fact that it is an obscure system for their own personal, grudges or whatever, right? And in the example of the cops, right, we're talking about this database, right? A database that like everyone that is affected and not affected by it, no idea it existed, right? No idea it was a part of the structure of how cops solve problems, right? Because we don't know what the tools and structures of them solve. We have no structural understanding. We're surprised that like murderers get away with shit, and it's like, why are you surprised? You don't fucking even know what tools they use. Like you don't know what we don't, and even if you did, like we don't even know the legal dimension of how that was allowed and funded for that to be created, or like when or how, or like, you understand? Right? Because if we had some society interface, right, where we're like, someone's like, oh man, how do cops work? Like local New York City precinct, standards of gang, whatever. And then you see like the hologram map of like what those places actually are, like where are they, right? It's like, you don't know where none of these places fucking are, right? Whatever, right? And like, you would have graphs and layered dimensions of like, whatever, I'm not gonna fucking go here, right, and explain the UI or some shit, right? But if you were to be like, okay, like I see that like one of the system, right, legally and like socially, like in situ, right, and hypothetically they use this. What is this? This is a gang database. This is interesting. Very interesting, right? And the thing is, like, that's a structure of our social reality, right? So it should always be there, right? Right? Again, because we're not thinking that way. We think like narrative dumbasses, like fantasy land, like I'm not gonna get into it. How fucking stupid we are, right? All vibes or whatever, right? Right? The way you get that information, right, is a John Oliver video that's gonna go in one ear, right? You're gonna feel, and then it's gonna be gone, and you're not gonna think about it ever, right? Right? But if there was a map of society, right, where that was there, because that is an aspect of society, right, you would have a different relationship with that information, right? You would start thinking like first off, you would know what the fuck your reality you live in. You wouldn't be a fucking stupid sheep that these pedophile fascist motherfuckers use your money to enslave people and kill people around the world, and then come here and they're gonna fucking do it to you too, right? And you're gonna be like, woo, woo, right, whatever, until it's like, oh God, I didn't think that they were gonna, whatever, son. Oh my God, whatever, right? If you had a different relationship, right, with these systems, right, you would catch bad people. You would actually catch bad people, right? You would actually catch them, right? Because people wouldn't know what works and what doesn't, right? People wouldn't just have like narratives about how they feel if it works or not, right? People wouldn't be attached to a narrative and some team, you know? People would just be like, I know that there is this system, this gang database, right? I knew immediately once you guys created it. Well, first of all, it wouldn't be created without you knowing, or unless you willingly were ignorant, right? If we had a society interface, and that's sort of how we communicated at least the structural elements of our political and like social reality, right? Right? Unless you purposely and willingly want to ignore it, right? Right? These convoluted bills or structures wouldn't be created in the first place, but if they were, right, you would in real time see them, understand them, and like your politicians would do stuff about them, right? Because you would actually be engaged, right? You would actually understand in a big picture way these things, right? Right? Crimes would get solved, not like, oh my God, John Oliver made a 20-minute thing about an aspect of society you had no fucking clue about. No clue about. You understand? Shit would actually get solved. Not like at a crowd level, at an actual everyone in society level, right? And not just like the 20 people out of 700,000 who aren't a bunch of lazy bums. He'll be like, okay, you know what? I'll actually go and be like, yeah, don't do this. God bless those 20 people or whatever. I don't fucking know. And an even more important level is that you wouldn't show up just begging, right? Just begging for something to be done, like, or just, this is unacceptable, or just using words like, this is terrible for the community. No, dog. You would show up and be like, there's this system, right? It's doing this, and this is wrong and it should be changed, and this is the law that it should be changed, right? You would be speaking structurally, right? You would be demanding structural change, right? There's a thing that I've noticed, right? And that hopefully you notice. And this is all, like, you see this every time we're interacting with politicians. It's especially poignant right now, especially with these Republicans who act like Donald Trump is like a dear leader or some shit. Like Fox News shit, like, right? Or you'll see this in like the podcast sphere or in like just commentators, right? There's this big thing about like trusting, or like these people are betraying us. Like there's these emotional appeals. These like no, idiot, that's not how it works. Okay? Right? They take advantage of the fact it works that way, right? The fact you don't have structural understanding, right? Because they can pay for consultants. They can pay for people to ground up all that info and they just know what to do. They don't got to do the work, right? You can't do that, right? Right? So you have to get your own structural understanding, right? Then have an opinion on it. And then make sure that wherever you got that info wasn't special interest angled, skewed the fuck up. Because that's another problem, right? You would have a much different relationship with the stuff in your society, with the people that are supposed to, manage it, represent you, right? Because you would know what the fuck to ask for in the first place, right? But there's another layer to it, right? You not just like knowing what to ask for, right? But like knowing what to ask for shows you how it works, right? People always talk about crime and they're scared about that, and then murderers and stuff, right? But again, like you don't know the tools they use to do this stuff. They'll ask you to pick a representative to solve it. How, dog? How? Solve what? You don't know what to solve. You don't know the tools they use. You don't know anything. We will never be free. We will never be a free society. Democracy will never be democracy until we have a society interface. Until we get rid of these non-honest acting, fascist, psychopathic motherfuckers, right? Who don't care about shit, son. They don't care about sex traffickers, dog, because in their mind, half of them are fucking pedophiles themselves, or believe some fucking crazy shit that if someone in their team were to be the pedophile, they wouldn't call them out. They might not be pedophiles, but they if there's someone in their team and giving them power, they ain't gonna call them out for it. So they're basically pedophiles. Or they have belief system where they're like, well, God allowed people to marry 13-year-olds, so I don't have a problem with it as long as it's not my daughter or some shit, right? It's like until we get rid of these bad faith actors, these people who don't give a fuck about a structural reality. Why do you think they're all hypocrites? They're all like, oh, that's such a bad thing they're doing. And then their team is doing that and it's silence, right? Because it's when you're doing emotional appeal, when they're doing emotional appeals or or whatever, right? It's bullshit. It's bullshit. They don't care. They won't save you. They won't help you. They don't care. It's all bullshit. The only person that can help you is you, your community. And you have to understand stuff structurally. We need a society interface. We need to get out all these Nazi fascist motherfuckers. Every single one of them should be in jail, right? Every single one of our politicians should, first of all, be tried for war crimes, right? We need to get rid of all of those motherfuckers. We need to protect ourselves, right? And we need to change the nature of political discourse to not, for these stupid motherfuckers to not have a place, dog. They don't have a place. The only reason they can just destroy democracy is because we're all too stupid to tell them to tell them when to shut the fuck up. You don't know the structures or anything, so you don't know when to tell them to shut the fuck up. You'll just let them rant. And you'll just go with their emotional appeal. And then you're like, wow, they were the pedophile, globalist, or whatever the fuck you believe in all along. And you're surprised. No, dog, no.